And now on Jackpot Button Lewis 2, the pressure is really on now for the Ferrari team to deliver a good performance in front of their home crowd of the Tifosi, as we head to the Temple of Speed itself of the circuit of the Autodromo Nazionale Monza for round 12 of the 1995 Reimagined Formula 1 season, as we have live extended race highlights of the 1995 Italian Grand Prix, introduced by Jack Wright with live race commentary from Murray Walker in Grand Prix Formula 1. More well known as the Temple of Speed, this is the historic circuit of Monza, where we're about to see the Italian Grand Prix of 1995. Every year we come here, the atmosphere here in Italy is electric as the Tifosi cheer on their beloved Ferraris to what they hope will be victory. And like many circuits on the 1995 F1 Grand Prix calendar, it's been broken up by chicanes to reduce speeds of the cars and increase driver safety, meaning getting the balance between speed and grip right is vital. Last year, back in 1994, even though that Frenchman John Alesi in his Ferrari took pole position and led the race until lap 15, he sadly then retired from the race, suffering a gearbox failure. But after the 53 lap race distance, the race was won by Britain's Damon Hill driving in his Williams Renault, meaning that the Italian Tifosi had to settle with second place, with Austrian Gerhard Berger taking the second step on the podium in his Ferrari, along with the flying Finn of Mika Hakkinen taking third position in his McLaren Peugeot. This victory for Damon enabled him to move within 11 points of Michael Schumacher in last year's Drivers' World Championship table, after Schumacher was banned for both this race and the following one at Estoril in Portugal for his disqualification during the British Grand Prix from also last year. But last time out at a very wet Spa-Francorchamps circuit in Belgium for the Belgian Grand Prix, Germany's Michael Schumacher put in one of the most dominant performances in any Grand Prix Formula race in history, finishing a staggering 4 minutes ahead of the rest of the field to take his third race victory of this year's 1995 Reimagined Grand Prix season. Britain's Damon Hill in his Renault-powered Williams took second place after finishing a lap behind, while fellow Briton of Mark Blundell in his McLaren Mercedes took third place and once again now his sixth consecutive podium finish so far of this year's Reimagined 1995 Championship. But once again, unfortunately, the Ferrari team had another lackluster performance after Jean Alesi only could manage to finish in 8th place while his Austrian teammate of Gerhard Berger couldn't even took part in the race following his race ban previously, as he picked up in the previous round at the Hungarian Grand Prix at the Hungaroring in Budapest. But now, as they come to their main home race of this year's championship, Ferrari are hoping for a better result after Berger has now served his race ban and is now back to be competing in this afternoon's Italian Grand Prix along with his Frenchman teammate, once again that being John Alesi. And as of this year, it's been over 7 years since the last impressive performance from the Ferrari team, when they last had their first win and 1-2 finish for the team after the death of their founder, that being the late Enzo Ferrari, where Austrian's Gerhard Berger took the victory along with his Italian teammate on Michele Alboreto. So as well as the Ferrari team being seriously under pressure in front of their home crowd of the Tifosi here for this race weekend of this round of the 1995 FIA Formula 1 World Championship, Michael Schumacher narrowly leads the Drivers' Championship after that all-important third race victory of this year's season, and unbelievably, it's now a dead heat between Benetton and Williams, both powered by Renault engines in the Constructors' Championship. But who will take the victory here at this afternoon's race, and once again, being one of the fastest circuits on the 1995 Formula 1 Grand Prix Championship calendar? Oh, buongiorno, signore and signoras! And more specifically, to translate in English, good evening everybody, all you Formula 1 fans out there. My name is Jack Wright, as always, and once again, welcome to yet again another edition of my World Motorsport playthrough series, that is Grand Prix Formula 1, and to once again full race extended highlights of round 12 of the 1995 reimagined FIA Formula 1 World Championship, with the 1995 Pioneer 66th Italian Grand Prix here from the Autodromo Nazionale di Monza in Italy. And once again, it is a pleasure, as always, to bring you another edition of this quite incredible season that we've had so far. And it's crazy to think that in the last few races that we've had, the championship couldn't get any more closer than ever before. And we, as I said before, after the truly incredible, dominant performance once again from Germany's Michael Schumacher for the Mild 7 Benetton Renault team, taking once again his fourth race victory of the championship. My apologies, actually third, I was going to say, yeah, because we do know that, if you might remember, that he previously won back at the, I think that was the, more specifically, the, no, it wasn't the Hungarian Grand Prix, that was Damon Hill. I think it was, let me just check here. I'm sure I can remember on the top of my head here. But while I find out, I do know that, amazingly, from the result that he, of course, did not too long ago, a few weeks back, it was still an amazing performance once again from the German there, and at the moment in the Drivers' Championship, it has made all that difference. I mean, it's incredible how he's managed to, especially he used the wet weather conditions to his advantage after an incredible, of course, initially from qualifying. I think it was initially from, I think it was about 8th place or something. But unfortunately, he ended up nearly stalling the car with his gearbox towards the start, and he did drop down immediately down to, I think, about 7th or 17th, sorry, place as well. And That was absolutely crazy, but the way that he managed to go through the field, despite having a slow start and nearly once again stalling the car as well as the engine, that made all the difference. But he did have an amazing race once again. Just to clarify, there we go. Yes, I was just going to say previously from the last few races, he has won at both Spain and the French Grand Prix. There we go, to be more specific. But once again, to clarify, that was his third race victory of this year's Reimagined 1995 Championship. And amazingly, to actually see him back on the podium again, that being Damon Hill taking his, I think that was his third podium of the year, and that's actually the first time that he's, I think, took second place in a while, actually, because he's actually finished out of the points previously in some of the earlier rounds of this year's championship. But it was a brilliant result. Even though he was behind by one lap, it was still an incredible performance from the British driver, and the rivalry between them has got even closer. And but they were very respectable of each other on the podium, as you saw from the top of the program, as we saw highlights from the last race of this year's championship. And unbelievably, for the sixth time consecutively, the fellow British driver, also of Mark Blundell in his Marlboro-sponsored McLaren Mercedes, took his sixth consecutive podium finish, taking third place. And I mean, it is still blowing my mind more and more and more, just the consistency of podium finishes Mark has had in the last few races is absolutely incredible. And as you can tell, of course, we've decided to mix things up here on Grand Prix Formula 1. We're not going to be following him for this particular race, but in recognition of this incredible achievement from the Marlboro McLaren Mercedes team, we have managed to dig out one of their old shirts, of course, of the year, with the old McLaren logo and, of course, the Marlboro sponsor. Of course, once again, we do not condone any sponsorship, of course, or to do with either that being of tobacco or also alcohol, especially that has been put into the game. We do know that this was a thing also outside of the Grand Prix Formula 1 and, of course, Jackpot Button universe in the real-life season that was reflected in this game of Formula 1. It had some strong, of course, guidelines when it came to advertising anything of alcohol or tobacco sponsorship, that being also into the intro to our show with the likes of Kremer's Havalik vodka on the Jordan Peugeot 195 car that you see in the title sequence, and also from the previous races that we've had, especially with Marlboro sponsors. They normally would have a car with a barcode going under it, like if it was a tunnel, and especially as we come here to Monza, it's quite a well-known sponsor around the circuit, so you will be seeing that when we get to live, of course, my apologies, extended race highlights of course, the Italian Grand Prix of 1995 very, very shortly. But with that being said, before we go and look into what took place in qualifying from just yesterday, let's quickly remind you of the current situation in the Drivers' and Constructors' Championship point tables at the moment. And once again, with taking that third victory there for Germany's Michael Schumacher, that has now put him unbelievably 3 points ahead at the moment of the Scotsman of David Coulthard in his Williams Renault by 44 points to 41. Mark Blundell is still in third place with 34 points, and he's now just 2 points ahead of Damon Hill, who moves up from 5th to 4th with 32 points after that all-important with the 6 points from the second place finish that he had last time out at Belgium. And Johnny Herbert is once again stays in, once again he drops down now at the moment, as we said, to 5th place with 27 points, and he's only just 3 points ahead of the Brazilian of Rubens Barrichello in his Jordan Peugeot in 6th place. and also a lackluster performance from John Alesi last time out, as you did her at the top of the programme. He only finished in 8th, but he missed out on the points this time around, and he's still in 7th place with 21 points. And since he was disqualified, of course, from the last 2 races at the Hungarian Grand Prix, and he was banned from taking part last time out at the, of course, the Belgian Grand Prix at Spa of Gerhard Berger. He stays in 8th place with 12 points, but he is 1 point ahead of the fellow Frenchman, that being Jean-Christophe Bourniot in his Red Bull, of course, sponsored, that being Sauber Ford. And rounding up the top 10 is his fellow, of course, Frenchman and fellow compatriot, that being Olivier Panis, and he still remains with 9 points in his, once again, Mugen Honda powered Ligier. So, and of course, we still, we can also confirm that there has been some massive, of course, progress and recovery for that being Carl Wendlinger. Even though he has still got 5 points and out of the top 10, there is confirmation that he will be heading back into, he will be hoping to take part within the last 5 races of this particular season. Of course, reimagined here on Grand Prix Formula 1. But we will have more on that as it develops. But as we now move on to, of course, with that coming now, the drivers, as we have a look at the Constructors' Championship, and if you thought it was close as the drivers was in the Constructors' Championship, both Benetton Renault and Williams, both Renault powered, as I've just mentioned, have also unbelievably managed to tie at the moment, both with 67 points from those 2 all-important finishes, first and second for both Michael Schumacher and Damon Hill from the last race. And it's made all the difference, especially with, as I said before, there has been nothing between these 2, of course, constructors at the moment. And we have had one incredible race so far, and I mean, it's amazing that they have come so far over the last few races, and as I said, they're almost as equal as their drivers are. There's nothing between the teams as well as the drivers, and I mean, nothing. I can honestly say nothing else than that between them 2. But in 3rd place, that being McLaren Mercedes, they move up to, once again, 44 points. And we do know that they're, of course, but just previously before, they were just a few points behind McLaren. Sorry, my apologies, Ferrari initially from a few races back. But now they're in a very interesting situation at the moment in the Drivers' Championship. And they are still remaining, of course, 10 points, or make that, of course, 9 points ahead of Ferrari, that stay in 4th place with 33 points. Jordan Peugeot still moving up slowly, and they are just, I think, just under, I think that might be as a guess, because it is in even numbers. I think about 7 or 8 points behind, of course, Ferrari in, like I said, 5th place there with 26. Sauber Ford are still in 6th at the moment with 17 points, and still at the moment in 7th, 8th and 9th are Ligier Mugen Honda, still with 9 points. Tio Yamaha with 5 points after a 1 point, of course, snatched there from Yukio Katayama, finishing in 6th last time out at Belgium, and once again still in 9th place, but still he managed to get a of course no, actually, my apologies, I thought he initially got 1 point. He just was beaten by his fellow Japanese compatriot, that being Taki Inoue there, Yukio Katayama of Footwork Kart, still in 9th place with only 3 points. So there you go, everybody. That concludes and confirms the current situation with the drivers and constructors championship point table so far at the moment. And if any of you that, while I nearly forgot, everybody, while I was on the topic of it, but before we get underway with, of course, the full extended race highlights of this year's 1995 Pioneer 66 Italian Grand Prix here from Monza, we also also at the end of the last program, we also wanted you to, of course, let us know on, with only just unbelievably just with now make that 5 races to go in this Reimagined 1995 FIA Formula 1 World Championship season. We have been wanting to, of course, see what you or you viewers think of who is going to become the World Drivers' Champion by the end of this series. And we put up a poll and survey, of course, up on my official YouTube channel from just last week, following the break in between the last race from, once again, Spa in Belgium. And we have actually unbelievably got the results now, because they had closed from just a day before we were about to broadcast this edition of Grand Prix Formula 1. And we can now confirm that from the top 3 that we have chose for all of you viewers to vote, of Michael Schumacher, Damon Hill and David Coulthard, unbelievably by a landslide, Michael Schumacher was voted to be the future world champion, and for being the current world champion of 1994, most of you are set to think that he will retain the Drivers' World Championship title for a second time, as most of all of you that voted, there was the percentage rate of 73%, but unbelievably, David Coulthard has only managed to trump, unbelievably, his teammate by quite a substantial margin, by I think a 10 more percent than, of course, his fellow British teammate Damon Hill with 20%, while Damon Hill unbelievably only had 7% there. But we managed to get over 15 votes from all of you, of course, viewers and watchers of this. And once again, this is the first time we've actually done this for this series, so I'd like to say thank you so much for your contributions to this series. And it did surprise me. I do remember that the first few votes, when they first came into this poll, we did actually see that unbelievably, both Schumacher and Hill had most of the shared percentage rate of being the future world champion, and no one went nowhere near David Coulthard. But since, of course, like I said, this is a reimagining of a real-life season that once again happened 30 years ago as of this year, it's nice to see a complete difference to what actually happened. And we do know it's become a lot more different to what it was in real life, because in the real life season, Michael Schumacher was very dominant in the first half of the championship, but also there was also Damon Hill also that had a hand in with wins, but also the rivalry between him and Schumacher. They took each other out. I mean, it was quite incredible how some of these particular races of the championship in real life with the British Grand Prix, we do know that he actually took Schumacher off in the real life race at I think it was the Brooklands corner, in quite an infamous collision during that particular race of that season. And unbelievably, also in real life, that also did happen also 30 years ago as well. And because of that, Schumacher ended up being banned from the next race, which we'll head to next time out on another edition of Grand Prix Formula 1, that being with the Portuguese Grand Prix from Estoril. But hopefully that won't happen again in the course with this series. But we do know that David Coulthard unbelievably qualified on pole position from yesterday afternoon. And before we get to that, we did mention, of course, like as Motorsport became more safety conscious since last year, once again to remind you of following the deaths of Roland Ratzenberger and Ayrton Senna, we do know that the 3 main long curves, more specifically here at the Autodromo Nazionale Monza, they have been squeezed in to install larger gravel traps, and that meaning where they actually are shortening the lap race distance, of course the lap distance, but then just the race to 5.77 kilometers, which is 3.585 miles. So just to let you know about that. And also to clarify that the overall course length, as we said, that is what we just mentioned there, and there's 53 laps of the race distance, and we've also got the current weather report. Also is glorious sunshine over the of course the circuit at the moment. So and also the Tifosi are in fine voice, because like I said before, this is the second home race for the Ferrari team, as well as the circuit, of course, the Enzo Edino Ferrari in San Marino, and they were hoping for a decent result after Jean Alesi actually got pole position all the way back at the beginning of the season. But Michael, sorry, my apologies, Alesi and Berger have done really well qualifying-wise, and we'll get to that when we show you the starting grid very, very shortly. Once again, to remind you, the circuit of Monza is based in of course, a very same place of the same name, which is a city and comune principality, which is also on the River Lambro, and a tributary of the River Po in the Lombardy region, of Italy, and it's about 15 kilometers, I was going to say there, which is in 9 miles northeast of Milan, and it's also the capital of the province of both Monza and Brisana there, if any of you did not know that already. And when I meant the River Po, unbelievably, of course, even though the program wasn't even around at this time, and you had to wait a few years, of course, until it happened, the children's program of the Teletubbies, that is actually one of the Teletubbies which was red, that was being Po, with the letters of course, P-O. So just to make it for all of you, of course, outside of when we, of course, had a few modern references, even though we've tried to stay more centred in, of course, the year of 1995, where this series and of this season is obviously most importantly based from. But we can also confirm that with the pole position time, like I said, David Coulthard did get pole there with a time of 1 minute 24.6, at 462 hundredths of a second there, and we do know that there was quite a lot to also. Well, we've also got an update also signalling that the Italian driver of Giovanni Lavaggi is set to be taking part for the final time so far at this moment, because we have heard, unbelievably, next time out at the Portuguese Grand Prix at Estoril, he's going to be replaced by Swiss driver of Jean-Denis Delatraz, and we'll be seeing him take to the track, of course, in just a few weeks' time. And just to remind you all, if we have not, if you've never heard of him, we do know that he is a well-known driver that was born on the 1st of October 1963, and we do know that this is not the first time in Formula 1 he's took part. The first time that he took part was at the Australian Grand Prix at the end of the last year's season, driving more specifically, if I can actually find out as well here, on the race classification. I think I don't know if I think Pacific were around at that time, but they had at the time Ilmore engines. Yes, I was going to say no, that weren't him. No, he was actually driving for the Larousse team. There we go. My apologies. Alongside his teammate that was of I think. Of Hideki Noda there from Japan, so there to just to clarify that. But we do know that he finished 25th, and he was behind by I think it was 6 seconds to, and he was the last driver. Oh no, my apologies, he actually finished ahead, of Domenico Sciattarella, who we did see right at the beginning of this series driving for the Simtech Ford team, but since they have been classified bankrupt and not taking part in this year's championship anymore, that was the last time when Jean-Denis Delatraz took part. But we do know that he is also in his Formula 1 career. Before that, before he took part in Formula 1, he's also scored 2 third-place finishes in the 1988 Formula 3000 season But unbelievably, he actually earned his free, of course, Formula 1 drives as a pay driver. So this is, of course, that being his third race as of today. And this afternoon's Italian Grand Prix, so meaning that, of course, for any of you that do not know that term, that's when a driver for a professional auto racing team who, instead of being paid by the owner of their car, they drive for free and bring with them their own personal sponsorship or personal and family funding to finance the team's operations. And this may be done to gain on-track experience or to live the lifestyle of a driver in a particular series when one's talent or credentials do not merit a paying ride. And this is also a term, also is known as a ride buyer or a rich kid in the United States, and a gentleman driver in sports car and GT racing, and also known as a privateer in also Australia. But also I do know that I've happened to have known the term also used here in the UK, also in the, as of currently, the ESSO, or make that also REC Auto Trader British Touring Car Championship as well. So just to have give you a little bit of insight and trivia about that. But exciting to actually hear that, though, of course, for the driver once again, coming from the capital, that being of Geneva in Switzerland. And we hope that he will put on a good performance. He is set to replace once again Giovanni Lavargi from next time out at the Portuguese Grand Prix, once again at Estoril. So, but with that being said, I think there's nothing else to say, and before I ramble anymore, it's time for me to now sprint to the commentary box to join my one and only, of course, fellow commentating partner in crime, that being the legendary voice of Formula 1 himself, that being, of course, Murray Walker. And before we get to full race highlights of this afternoon's and, of course, this weekend's 1995 Pioneer 66 Italian Grand Prix, here from, once again, the Autodromo Nazionale Monza, here in, of course, Italy, it's time now for the starting grid for round 12 of the 1995 Reimagined FIA Formula 1 World Championship, as once again as we have the 1995 Pioneer 66 de Grande Primo d'Italia, once again here from Monza in Italy. Here is the starting grid for round 12 of the 1995 FIA Formula 1 World Championship with the Italian Grand Prix. And starting on pole position is Scotsman David Coulthard in his Williams Renault, with Germany's Michael Schumacher in his Benetton in second. The return of Austrian Gerhard Berger in his Ferrari after being banned from the last race in Belgium starts third, with Damon Hill in fourth. Jean Alesi, the Gerhard Berger's teammate, is in fifth, with Johnny Herbert in sixth in his Benetton. Seventh is Barrichello with Mika Hakkinen in his McLaren in eighth, with his British teammate Mark Blundell in ninth. Heinz-Harald Frentzen is the first of the Saubers in 10th, with Martin Brundle in his Ligier in 11th. Eddie Irvine is 12th in his Jordan, with 13th Olivier Panis. Bourlion is 14th, with Max Papis in 15th, with Mika Salo in 16th in the first of the Tyrrell Yamahas, with his Japanese teammate Yuko Katayama in 17th. Luca Badoa is in 18th, with Pedro Lamy in 19th. Taki Inoue is in 20th, with Andrea Montemini in 21st. Roberto Marino takes 22nd, with his Brazilian teammate Pedro Diniz in 23rd. And starting at the back for another race, and possibly for the final time in his Formula 1 career, it's Giovanni Lavargi in the second of the Pacific Fords.
This is historic Monza, where we're about to see the Italian Grand Prix.
FIA Formula 1 World Championship. Round 12. The 1995 Pioneer 66 Gran Primo d'Italia. from the Autodromo Nazionale Monza. And now, to take you through all 53 laps of this afternoon's 1995 Italian Grand Prix, here from the Temple of Speed itself, that being the circuit of Monza, it's now time to hand you over to our official race commentators. First of all, Jack Wright, then followed shortly as ever by the legendary voice of Formula One himself, Murray Walker. Well, as you said just earlier on there, Murray, this is once again the historic Autodromo Nazionale Monza circuit here in Italy, and once again for round 12 of the 1995 reimagined FIA Formula One World Championship with the Pioneer 66 Gran Primo d'Italia, and that more specifically, as we mentioned, the Pioneer 66 Italian Grand Prix, once again here from Monza. Brilliant qualifying once again from David Coulthard in his Williams, along with Michael Schumacher on alongside him in second. Great qualifying also once again from the Ferraris of Gerhard Berger, returning after being banned from the last race at Belgium, along of course with Frenchman Jean Alesi in 5th place there. Third once again there for Berger, especially for him coming back after that disqualification, and I'm sure that the Tifosi will be cheering them on as loud, as proud as possible, because like I said, the pressure is really on for the team here, especially since this is their home race. And once again, to remind you, it has been over 7 years since Ferrari last won here, in of course just a few months, or even make that even weeks actually, following the death of their late team founder, that being the legendary Enzo Ferrari. And there hasn't been a 1-2 finish result at this circuit since 1988, when once again Gerhard Berger actually finished on the podium here once again, which is just outside of our commentary box. It's looking absolutely beautiful. It's gone through loads of changes since the early 1990s, and of course the load with the advertising boards there, and we do know that if the Ferrari team can have a decent result this afternoon, I'm sure that the track will almost be immediately invaded by the Tifosi, because they just live and breathe motorsport here. I mean, it's one of the most beautiful, and make that also one of the other fastest circuits on the 1995 F1 Grand Prix calendar. And we have had some incredible races here over the of course the last few years, and I hope that for 1995 this will be once again no exception. So as the drivers have just finished off their formation lap and are now lining up on the grid, all 24 cars are now on the grid and waiting for those red lights to come on, and as well finished by the starting off with the green light, sorry, to make the race start official. Once again, now here on Jackpot, Button Lewis Sport Productions, and here on Grand Prix Formula One, once again it's time for full race highlights of round 12 of the 1995 reimagined FIA Formula One World Championship, as once again we have the 1995 Pioneer 66 Italian Grand Prix here from the Autodromo Nazionale Monza circuit here in Monza, Italy. Oh yeah, we just forgot about that, didn't we? Yeah, we're following Johnny Herbert this time in the Benetton team for this race, right? Yeah, I was going to say. Okay, that's fine. Well, don't worry. But I know that he's won a few races just recently, hasn't he? So if he actually wins today, it'll be his third win of the season. So, well, let's see what happens, though. Starting from 6th place, he might do it, but anything can happen. Like you always say, Murray. Let's have another exciting race. I'm sure they'll put on a good performance for us, nevertheless.
place.
Well, I can't believe it, Murray. Just out of nowhere. That was very careless driving there. I think that was from, Northern Irishman
Losing ground.
Eddie Irvine. And he was very, very aggressive there, hitting the rear end of Schumacher's Benetton. And that, unbelievably, is a black and white diagonal flag warning. I think that was to Eddie Irvine there, Murray, but we'll find out on the graphic very shortly. And he did also, oh, and look at this! Mika Häkkinen is right up the rear wing of Herbert's Benetton right now.
8. Eddie Irvine. 9. Johnny Herbert. 10. Mika Häkkinen.
That was a great start, though, from Mika Häkkinen. But what a shame there for Herbert. He did get a good start off the line, but he got a lot of wheel spin, and he lost 6th place right at the beginning to, of course, I think that was Barrichello and also, I think that was Blundell. Load of sparks, kick off from the back. He...
Not enough to be lucky. You've got to be good. And he is that.
He certainly is, Murray. Oh, that was very close. Irvine shuts the door through the Curva Grande. But Coulthard off is up.
In first, David Coulthard. Second, Michael Schumacher. In third place, Damon Hill. In fourth, Gerhard Berger. In fifth position, Jean Alesi. In sixth, Mark Blundell.
Well, we do know that Blundell had a good start. Wheel to wheel.
Spectacular overtaking there.
That was some brilliant driving there from Johnny Herbert as he overtakes Eddie Irvine. But he's trying to get in the slipstream. That's incredible. He must be on a lower downforce setting. We know that Johnny Herbert's on max downforce because of he's went for the grip option rather than speed. But this track is very quick. Especially it can really help the mid-runners.
Rubens Barrichello. 8. Johnny Herbert. 9. Eddie Irvine.
Well, even though despite that, of course, unexpected shunt from Irvine at the start.
He's shedding buckets of adrenaline in that car.
Well, I don't think he's just doing that as David Coulthard sets the first fastest lap of 1 minute 36.605 hundredths of a second. He continues to lead this year's 1995 Italian Grand Prix. He just goes wide onto the grass through the Lesmo corners. A real battle between Häkkinen and Irvine at this moment.
Race order. In first place, David Coulthard. In second, Damon Hill. Third, Michael Schumacher. In fourth position, Gerhard Berger. In fifth place, Jean Alesi. Sixth, Mark Blundell.
Herbert goes relatively quick through the last corner at Parabolica. Coulthard leads, as Murray just said, with Hill second, Schumacher third, Berger fourth, Alesi fifth, and Mark Blundell rounds off the top 6 in his McLaren Mercedes. And Coulthard has set another fastest lap of 1 minute 36.044 hundredths of a second as Herbert now closes in on catching up
Gained a lot of time there.
with the Brazilian of Rubens Barrichello.
Rubens Barrichello. It's not enough to be lucky. You've got to be good. And he is that. 8. Johnny Herbert. 9. Eddie Irvine.
We can see that the Benetton is marginally quicker than that Peugeot-powered Jordan, but he has got a bit of a gap now to Hakkinen and Irvine. But he looked very quick going through that chicane there, Johnny Herbert. And he's just under a second of Barrichello now. And it was nearly half a second at the last sector time. And Coulthard is now got a 13-second gap as where Herbert is at the moment.
David Coulthard, Damon Hill, Michael Schumacher, Gerhard Berger.
And Coulthard's gone faster again. He is going really quick there, Murray. They seem to still be going really quick, the Benetton there, even though it's on a lower or higher, of course, grip downforce setting. But Barrichello was really slow there. He's looking very vulnerable to Herbert now. He's putting real pressure on the Brazilian right now, Johnny.
They're really right on the edge, pushing it to the limit all the time.
Indeed so, yes, Murray. Brilliant driving, though, from two incredible up-and-coming drivers.
Rubens Barrichello. 8. Johnny Herbert. 9. Eddie Irvine.
Who in turn have had a few, of course, trips to the podium this year. Of course, well, I was going to say not just this afternoon. Herbert just clips the grass through the Parabolica corner, but he just keeps the car on the tarmac and under control. Coulthard starts lap 5 out of 53 of this afternoon's Pioneer 66 Italian Grand Prix here at Monza. That was really smooth there through the hairpin. I'll make that the chicane even. My apologies. From the Verante Bassa chicane, which had to be slightly modified.
David Coulthard. Damon Hill. Michael Schumacher. Gerhard Berger.
For, of course, safety reasons, as we mentioned before the start of this race. How on earth Herbert is still keeping up with Barrichello? Whoa, my goodness!
Hang on. That's put him down a place. He really loves these kind of conditions.
And the flying Finn of Mika Hakkinen comes out of nowhere in his McLaren Mercedes and takes, unbelievably, 8th place from Herbert now. And Irvine wants to try and follow suit also. That completely took Herbert completely by surprise.
Rubens Barrichello. He's a bit off the pace there. 9. Johnny Herbert. 10. Eddie Irvine.
Whoa, he was very quick there, Herbert. Oh, on Barrichello again as he drops down as Hakkinen manages to get into 7th now.
He's closing the gap.
He's still right up his rear wing now. Surely he can find the gap here. Barrichello is really under pressure once again. He goes for a move, sideswiping him, nearly.
Unbelievable. That's taken him up a position. Race
Well,
order. David Coulthard. Damon Hill. Michael Schumacher. Gerhard Berger.
Well, I meant to say not exactly sideswiping him because he didn't actually make...
Loves these kind of conditions.
Absolutely, Murray, if you let me finish, sorry for you interrupting there. He did do a superb slingshot overtake there on Barrichello there, Herbert. And once again, he is back in 8th position. But he is starting to catch up with both McLarens of Blundell and Hakkinen, who is just ahead of him by a few seconds. It's under 1.5 seconds now to Hakkinen. There, Johnny Herbert. Through the next chicane, very quick.
He forces his way through.
And brilliant overtake there from Johnny Herbert. He was really slow going out of that last chicane there, Murray. And he just almost was wheel to wheel through the first of the 2 Lesbo corners just there, Murray.
He's closing the gap.
He still is, and he's now just a few seconds away from now making it into the top 6 with Mark Blundell right in front of him now. Coulthard still leads, and once again,
And really is a superlative driver.
he absolutely is, Murray.
David Coulthard, Damon Hill, Michael Schumacher, Jordan Alesi.
As it stands, Coulthard leads only 2.5 seconds to his fellow British teammate, that being the Englishman of Damon Hill. But Herbert is really starting to find some quick pace here.
He's definitely gaining.
He's more than doing that, Murray. And look at this! He's almost doing the same thing he did with Hakkinen. And oh, yes!
If he can keep his place, he'll finish in the points.
They almost made contact through the first Lesbo, but Blundell had to back out of it. And now Johnny Herbert is now up into 6th place. And as you said, Murray, he's in now the championship points.
And the gap is closing.
But incredibly, we've just saw the front wing. Blundell is still determined to catch up with that Benetton Renault. As Herbert is about to lap Roberto Marino's 40 course Ford. Next up is Gerhard Berger in his Ferrari, who's currently in 5th.
He's definitely gaining. This young man really is a superlative driver.
Well, like you said that again, Murray. He is really proving, though, that along being a very similar age to his German teammate, that being the current 1994 world champion, Germany's Michael Schumacher,
Take a lot of time there.
I think he has got a great future.
David Coulthard, Damon Hill, Michael Schumacher, Jordan Alesi.
In Formula One, especially as we saw him win 2 races already as of this year, both at the Argentine Grand Prix at Buenos Aires and also his home race at Silverstone.
He's definitely gaining.
This is some brilliant pace he is currently got in his Benetton. And we've also just heard from Johnny Herbert's race engineer as he passes, I think that's Giovanni Lavaggi's Pacific. He's going on a possibly, I think, really, I've actually just heard, he's actually going to bravely attempt a one-stop strategy since this track has got quite a low level of tyre wear.
He's accelerating hard now.
Up to nearly 170 or nearly 180 miles an hour there, Murray, before breaking down for the double chicane at Verantibasa. And now through
Shedding buckets of adrenaline in that car.
the Curvia Grande. And Coulthard still has got the lap record. The fastest lap, a 1 minute 35.695 hundredths of a second. As Herbert is now only 7 seconds to Gerhard Berger's Ferrari now. Oh, and it looked like he was going to try and force him off the track there, Montemini,
He's gained a lot of time there.
in his Pacific. But luckily, both drivers
Race order. Damon Hill, David Coulthard, Michael Schumacher, Jean Alesi.
somehow miraculously didn't make contact with each other. Just catching the curbs on the inside of, once again, the Parabolica corner, down the long pit straight. Going back up to nearly 180 miles an hour in 6th gear.
The gap is closing.
And brakes heavily again. That was very smooth, only just catching a few of the curbs there on the chicanes.
He's closing the gap.
Herbert is really making some very serious time up here. And I think he,
This young man really is a superlative driver.
as yet again you say that once more, Murray, he is in a very good position at the moment here. I think he could want to fancy his chances of being on the podium this afternoon. Dare I say it, Murray?
He's definitely gaining.
He passes Luca Badoa's Minardi. And now just 2.798 hundredths of a second now to Berger's Ferrari here, Johnny. And now Damon Hill now takes the new race leader. He is the new race leader as he now currently leads the race of the Pioneer 66 Italian Grand Prix by 16 seconds, the time gap so far.
Pedal to the metal. Flat out. Race order. Damon Hill, David Coulthard, Michael Schumacher, Jean Alesi.
The gap goes slightly up, but Herbert is looking very quick in his Benetton.
And he's gained a lot of time there.
Still once again, as we can see, a little bit of red in the distance, and that is definitely Berger's Ferrari. He may have started in third, but
He really loves these kind of conditions.
there was a massive power output from V12 power to the V10s of
Definitely gaining.
that Renault RS10 chassis. He's been caught up by a back marker. That's, I think, Pedro Lamy in his Minardi Ford. Berger passes him, as well as Herbert with the blue flag. Oh! And he nearly almost caught the rear wing of Berger there. He almost brake checked him there. That was some aggressive defending once again from the Austrian.
The gap is increasing.
And just remember, everybody, to all you viewers out there, he's only come fresh from being banned at the last race following a disqualification at the Hungarian Grand Prix. So I hope he is, obviously, after having some stern words from the president, that being
And he's gained a lot of time there.
Max Mosley of the FIA, surely any dirty, unsportsmanlike behaviour style driving would be
Damon Hill, David Coulthard, Michael Schumacher, Jean Alesi.
the most least of things to even come into his mind right now. But Herbert is right up his rear wing again now.
It's not enough to be lucky. You've got to be good. And he is that.
He was very quick through that chicane. He's in once again the slipstream, Murray. There's nothing in it between these two. As you say again, Murray, Herbert goes slightly wide, but he goes back onto the racing line. Now down the pit straight. He's still determined to keep up with his Ferrari, Gerhard Berger. Hills now once again still leads and starts lap 14. Schumacher is in second. And his once again Scottish teammate of course we are following Gerhard Berger and Herbert. He nearly goes for a move from the Curva Grande, but Coulthard, we meant to say, in all the confusion, is in third place. They're still under a second of each other. Berger was really slow there, but no! Herbert just backs out of going for a move, but Berger is looking relatively, I think, outpaced here at the moment by Herbert's Benetton here. A brilliant duel between these two drivers here, though. This is what Formula One is all about, though. Seeing the best drivers.
Race order. Damon Hill, Michael Schumacher, David Coulthard, Jean Alesi.
Proving to everyone in the world they are some of the best drivers in the world of international motorsport. As we have just reached over a quarter of the race distance now so far of this afternoon's 1995 Pioneer 66 Italian Grand Prix, and Berger has been slowed by a back marker.
That's moved him off a place.
And amazingly, due to, I think that's Massimiliano Papis,
And he's gained a lot of time there.
he slowed down Berger, and that made him completely vulnerable to Johnny Herbert. And now Johnny has got an all-important 5th place and holding on to 2 valuable World Championship points. But I'm sure he doesn't want to stop there. He wants to go even further and try to challenge for the podium.
He's losing ground.
Slightly Murray, but he was caught by back markers, but he has got a lot of time to make up now. He's 16 seconds behind now Jean Alesi, who stands in 4th place at the present moment. Hill still leads the race from Schumacher.
You've got to be good. And he is that.
By 7.4 seconds.
Race order. Damon Hill, Michael Schumacher, David Coulthard, Jean Alesi. He's hard on the accelerator.
He is really pushing his Renault RS10 car so far here, Murray.
And the gap is closing.
As he approaches one of the Tyrrell Yamahas, I think that might be, we can't see it from just at that view of the driver's helmet, I think that could be
He's a bit off the pace there.
Yukio Katayama. Herbert backs out, but there is a blue flag waved. But we do know that Yamaha-powered Tyrrell is no match for, of course, Herbert's Benetton there. I think that was Yukio Katayama, because he does have a dark helmet. And now John Alesi moves up to third place in his Ferrari now, as Coulthard now drops down to fourth, unbelievably.
He must be shedding buckets of adrenaline in that car. The gap is increasing.
Still no change, as David Coulthard still holds the fastest lap time of 1 minute 35.
Damon Hill, Michael Schumacher, Jean Alesi, David Coulthard.
365 hundredths of a second. We would just like to apologise for the unexpected jump in the coverage of this afternoon's Italian Grand Prix here from Monza to all you viewers here on Grand Prix Formula 1. I think this is due to a few technical difficulties with the Italian TV director from all of the cameras positioned around the Monza circuit.
He's definitely gaining. Pedal to the metal. Blackout.
100 and nearly, almost 100 and...
Enough to be lucky. You've got to be good. And he is that.
Absolutely, as you said there, Murray. Nearly 190 miles an hour down the pit straight there, but it got up to the closest of 185 miles an hour. That's the quickest that Benetton has been. But I think the car can go quicker if Herbert considers maybe a possible downforce setup change when he comes in for his one and only stop this afternoon. But as you can see, Hill leads, Schumacher second, Alesi third, Berger fourth, Herbert in fifth, and Gerhard Berger in his Ferrari in sixth place. Sorry there, Murray, to interrupt you.
Race order. Damon Hill, Jean Alesi, Michael Schumacher, David Coulthard.
Well, initially he was catching Alesi, but since they swapped positions, since Alesi managed to be quicker than Coulthard, Coulthard is Herbert's next driver to possibly overtake for fourth place.
And he's gained a lot of time there. He's definitely gaining. They're really right on the edge, pushing it to the limit all the time.
As 34 laps remain of this afternoon's 1995 Pioneer 66 Italian Grand Prix, we do know that some of the drivers were actually going to go for two stops, but Herbert is very brave to just go for a one stop.
He's closing the gap.
But he has been managing his slick tyres well, and now he's only just 8 seconds to Coulthard right now, while Damon Hill is needing an amazingly 26 seconds gap to, of course, once again to Coulthard. My apologies, that being Herbert.
And the gap is closing.
And now he slashed it down.
Damon Hill, John Alesi, Michael Schumacher, David Coulthard.
To 6.9 seconds now. Herbert is really going for it again as he's got another.
And he's gained a lot of time there.
Another spite of quick pace here. Through both.
They're really right on the edge, pushing it to the limit all the time.
Lesmo 1 and Lesmo 2. As he passes Max Papis
He's definitely gaining.
in his footwork cart again. Well, once again, this is a home race for many of the Italian drivers, and that Max being one of them. But I don't think he'll get, sadly, close to a podium. But we have seen him finish in the top 10 previously in the last few races. But he's still a future star in the sport
He's closing the gap.
to look out for, possibly in future seasons of Formula One, possibly. Very quick through that chicane. And Herbert storms past. I think that was Badoa's Minardi.
And he's gained a lot of time there.
And it looks like, I think that Coulthard has been held up by bad markers. Herbert catches up with
Damon Hill, John Alesi, Michael Schumacher, David Coulthard.
Montemini's Pacific. They're wheel to wheel down the straight. And he,
Must be shedding buckets of adrenaline in that car.
well, not just that, Murray, but he is literally flying round the circuit right now. And we haven't seen this for a long time, Murray, in previous races. And he goes for a move on Coulthard.
He forces his way through.
And unbelievably, what a superb overtake on David Coulthard there from Johnny Herbert. But Coulthard is not letting that go. He is right up
He's increasing.
his rear wing, trying to get a slipstream back.
The accelerator.
What a brilliant battle between these two British drivers, Herbert being English and Coulthard being Scottish.
And the gap is closing.
And now he's catching up with his German teammate of Michael Schumacher. And there he is! Remember, in the Constructors' Championship, both Williams and Benetton are tied
And he's gained a lot of time there.
currently with 67 points, so the points in this race are going to be all important to either team this afternoon. And whoever wins this afternoon's Grand Prix, I think also
Right on the edge, pushing it to the limit all the time. Race order. Damon Hill, John Alesi, Michael Schumacher, Johnny Herbert.
will also make a real difference as well in the Drivers' Championship, as David Coulthard is only just 3 points behind Michael Schumacher, who currently leads the Drivers' Championship after that dominant wet weather drive at Spa in Belgium a few weeks back. Herbert is now under a second to Schumacher now. Schumacher's been held up by a back marker. Herbert nearly goes for a move, but no, he backs out of it. Oh, and I think I think a Minardi made contact. Yes, and I think that might have been Pedro Lamy, I think. And he has also, if that is him, we can't actually see his helmet that clearly. But if it is him, or even Bedoya,
The gap is growing.
one of them is set to receive a black and white diagonal flag warning once again for unsportsmanlike behaviour. The marshal did wave a blue flag, and I'm surprised Lamy was very aggressive trying to defend him and trying to avoid himself being lapped for
He really loves these kind of conditions.
an unheard amount of time. He may have been lapped a few times already this afternoon.
He's closing the gap. That's powerful acceleration there.
Over 180 miles an hour once again.
John Alesi, Michael Schumacher, Johnny Herbert.
Herbert is still going, battling with his German teammate, once again Michael Schumacher. They need to be careful not to make contact with each other. They're almost wheel to wheel through the first Lesmo.
He forces his way through.
And he just got the upper hand and just a little few hundredths of a second quicker. And now Herbert is up into third place and he's currently on the podium.
He's closing the gap.
But Schumacher isn't giving up easily. He is right up his teammate's rear wing. Oh my goodness! He goes one side and the other. This is brilliant, Murray. But he's just got a bit of a gap now on Schumacher Herbert. Down the pit straight once again.
It's not enough to be lucky. You've got to be good. And he is that.
Oh, he did almost miss the chicane, but he just keeps the car on the tarmac. He nearly went onto the grass, and he rides over violently one of the chicane's curbs. But surprisingly, no suspension damage there. Herbert still carries on. And 12 seconds is the gap now to the next Ferrari.
Race order. Damon Hill, Jean Alesi, Johnny Herbert, Michael Schumacher.
Oh, once again, the Frenchman, Jean Alesi. As Hill starts lap 25 out of 53 of this year's 1995 Pioneer 66 Grand Prix d'Italia. And to translate once again in English, the 1995 Pioneer 66 Italian Grand Prix here at the Autodromo
Acceleration there.
Nazionale di Monza here in Italy.
And the gap is closing. That's taken him up a position.
We can hear a few drivers are starting to make their first few pit stops.
This young man really is a superlative driver.
He's really finding some pace here, Murray.
And he's gained a lot of time there.
And as we just saw, unbelievably, Johnny Herbert has set a new fastest lap of 1 minute 35.648. I think hundredths of a second there. He is literally flying around the Temple of Speed here. He's determined to catch up now with Damon Hill's Williams.
And the gap is closing.
Even though that he has still got that max downforce setup He's still finding some blistering pace in that Benetton. How we know...
Damon Hill, Johnny Herbert, David Coulthard, Jean Alesi.
How we know that he has done that, we will never know. He nearly brushes the grass and had a near miss, I think, there with that Tyrrell Yamaha. I think of
The gap is increasing.
Mika Salo. Now there's only a 3.8 of a second.
He's definitely gaining.
Between Herbert
They're really right on the edge, pushing it to the limit all the time.
and Hill now. And as of currently, we have unbelievably, just like what we had at the Canadian Grand Prix at Montreal a few months back, we currently have a British 1, 2, 3 podium so far. A blue flag has been waved from the marshals. I think that's the Sauber there of Jean-Christophe Bournion. He nearly made contact there with Herbert, but he didn't want to be overtaken initially, but he had no choice though. There was no way he was going to outrun that Benetton. And look at this!
Marvellous. That's into first place.
And unbelievably, we've already got a low fuel warning there for Johnny Herbert. He's nearly going to run out of fuel.
Johnny Herbert, David Coulthard, Damon Hill, Gerhard Berger.
Well, this is the first time that it's ever happened here on Grand Prix Formula 1. He needs to go into the pits this lap. Otherwise, he'll be out of this race. He's worked so hard. Damon Hill's already gone in, as you just heard, since Herbert has now taken the lead. Hopefully, he hasn't left it too late.
To be lucky, you've got to be good. And he is that.
Oh my word! It looks to me, yes! It's Herbert! He's slowing! He's slowing! I think he must have run out of fuel.
Oh no, Murray, I can't believe it! That was completely unexpected! Johnny Herbert has run out of fuel! I can't believe it! I think he didn't realise that he only had a little bit left, and we couldn't even find out even on his fuel tank, of course, display. Well, this has never ever happened here on Grand Prix Formula 1, but we honestly can't leave the race there. We have to carry on. So that means that Johnny Herbert is out of the race as of currently. But we are going to stick with another driver, and I think that means... what heartbreak though for Johnny. I can't believe that. I think that he pushed himself so hard. I think that his Renault engine was just being a little too powerful, and that was very thirsty fuel wise, and that was really unfortunate how that just happened. So with that being said, this has been quite an unexpected, of course, situation we find ourselves here on Grand Prix Formula 1. But we are once again going to carry on with the race. But we are going to now move on, as we just said, we were just about to say, as David Coulthard is currently leading the race at the moment. Of course, as we, I think we got up to round, I think it was lap 28 of the race. So we're going to be following him for the remainder of the race. So join us in a few minutes. Hello everyone who may be just tuning in to Grand Prix Formula 1 here on YouTube and here from Jackpot Button Lewis Sport Productions. We would just like to apologise for the unexpected, situation as we just saw there. Even though he was just about to come in on the next lap of lap 28, that being Johnny Herbert, who was leading the 1995 Pioneer 66 Italian Grand Prix here from Monza. You did see that unexpectedly the graphic only came up saying that he was low on fuel, and just as he was approaching the, I think it was actually one of the straights going into, he was literally just over halfway around the track, and then unfortunately he ran out of fuel and had to retire from the race. And he parked his car just near the track, actually on the grass verge. But with that being said, that brought out the safety car, and that has meant that there's been a huge mix-up of the field now. So as it stands, even though he had a brilliant battle with Johnny earlier on in the race, for the remainder of this race we are going to be following Mika Hakkinen in his McLaren Mercedes. He actually pitted earlier on laps 18 of this race, and currently he is challenging Eddie Irvine in 4th place. He's currently in 5th at the moment, and he could unbelievably be on his way to possibly getting a podium. We do know that the results from this time in the video are, or of course the race classification is going to be very different. So we are working on this unexpected predicament. But anyway, as we just said, let's resume once again full extended race highlights of once again this year's 1995 Pioneer 66 Italian Grand Prix from the Autodromo Nazionale Monza here in Italy. Well, that's a real shame, as we just had, as the safety car came in on the previous lap. A real heartbreak for the unexpected, run out of fuel there from Johnny Herbert. Even though he's on your graphic right now, that's what it was earlier on. But Damon Hill is still leading this race, even though he just pitted a few laps earlier on.
He's a bit off the pace there. It's not enough to be lucky. You've got to be good. And he is that.
Well, in this unexpected turn of events here, Murray, it's incredible to see that Mika Hakkinen, in his Marlboro McLaren Mercedes, he is literally almost just as fast as Johnny Herbert's Benetton was before he unexpectedly ran out of fuel. I could tell he was going to try and do an undercut earlier on, Murray, I think. But it's incredible now he's set the...
Damon Hill, Johnny Herbert, Eddie Irvine, Mika Hakkinen.
The fastest lap of 1 minute 35.499 hundredths of a second.
The gap is growing.
And he was 9 seconds to Irvine, but now that's gone to 10 seconds now. An all-important lead for Damon Hill at the moment in this Italian Grand Prix this afternoon. And if he goes on to win this afternoon, that'll put him right back in the championship hunt, as he's currently in 4th place.
The gap is increasing.
We'll make that 5th place, because that's where Johnny Herbert was before the start of this race.
This will really help the team in this year's Constructors' Championship.
Well, absolutely, Murray. This is all-important points for McLaren, who are determined to
He's a bit off the pace there.
close the gap on both Benetton and Williams in the that being the not just the Drivers' Championship, because Mika Hakkinen hasn't scored any points as of so far this year, but he has finished in the top 10 before. I mean, you have to go back to I think the San Marino Grand Prix at Imola.
He's losing ground.
There's a blue flag, and I was going to say...
Race over. Damon Hill. Johnny Herbert. Eddie Irvine. Mika Hakkinen.
As he gets past 40 course... The 40 course Ford, sorry, there, of Brazilian Pedro Diniz. That did slow him down a little bit, as it's now gone down to 14 seconds. Hakkinen over Irvine.
The gap is increasing. He's hard on the accelerator. What a fascinating season this is turning out to be. And the gap is closing.
Well, we really had quite the unpredictable season this year, Murray. It has to be said. And I think this has been one of the most unpredictable races, especially since we've had the first time a driver going out due to running out of fuel, which I didn't think that could even have been possible to happen in this series. Until now, of course, with this particular race of this reimagined Formula One season. Damon Hill is leading by 1 minute and 18 seconds. More drivers have just pitted.
Race order. Damon Hill. Johnny Herbert. Eddie Irvine. Mika Hakkinen.
And I think that might have been David Coulthard that just came out. But he's already ahead of Eddie Irvine.
This young man really is a superlative driver.
Well, even if you're saying about Damon or even Mika, this has still been an incredible performance from the Flying Finn. Once again, to remind you, his best result in a Grand Prix race
And he's gained a lot of time there.
is actually 4th place. That he, well, previously from last year, before he amazingly got a podium here this time last year in finishing in 3rd place. But we were just going by the stats, all courtesy of the game, which some may not be completely accurate. Hakkinen seems to be having quite the lonely race at the moment. But this is the first time, as 18 laps remaining of this afternoon's Italian Grand Prix here at Monza. He is ahead
Definitely gaining.
of his British teammate Mark Blundell for the first time in quite a few races, it has to be said.
Damon Hill. Johnny Herbert. Eddie Irvine. Mika Hakkinen. He must be shedding buckets of adrenaline in that car. He's closing the gap.
Oh, he looked really slow there, but I think that's just because of him being at top gear in 6.
He's a bit off the pace there.
Well, it looks like he's starting to...
Let out. Unbelievable.
Well, he's starting to fall back a little, but that unexpected collision there with, I think that was Lavaji, but he was at fault there because he should have let him pass. He was already lapped. But no! I think Häkkinen's got some rear wing damage. Oh no, that is devastating for Mike. I was going to say Michael there, Mika there. And yes, he's been called to go into the pits, unfortunately. He's going to make another tyre stop here. He's already been fueled
He's losing ground.
to the end of the race.
This will really help the team in this year's Constructors' Championship.
That is a real shame for Mika there.
Damon Hill, Johnny Herbert, Eddie Irvine, Mika Häkkinen.
And Lavaji has also been given an unsportsmanlike behaviour, black and white flag warning from the marshals. In comes Mika for his second unexpected scheduled routine stop.
The mechanics are out in the pit lane.
Yes, he's got some rear wing damage. Another top up of fuel. Just enough to get him to the end of the race. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. This is really unfortunate. Oh dear, and they're having problems with the tyres. Oh my goodness. What is going on with Mika Häkkinen here?
It's Häkkinen. Ouch! Looks as though the engine stalled.
I don't think he stalled, Murray. I think it's down to the pit crew. They weren't expecting this to happen. Oh my goodness me, it's absolute pandemonium in the McLaren Mercedes pit garage. The worst kind of situation, worst case scenario they could have ever thought of has unfortunately come true.
That's down a position.
Nearly almost 2 minutes are up and he's still in 7th place.
Race order. Damon Hill, Johnny Herbert, Eddie Irvine, Jean Alesi.
Oh, and other drivers are coming in. It's absolute chaos in the pit lane.
That's putting down a place.
I can't believe this is actually happening, Murray. In all my years of commentating on Formula One with you here, Murray, I have never, ever seen anything like this even happen even before. Mika must be absolutely fuming in his helmet right now. This is certainly something we certainly was not expecting, and he was expecting to get a podium finish or even points this afternoon.
7. Ukyo Katayama. 8. Mika Häkkinen. 9. David Coulthard. He's lost a place.
And the positions just keep going and going and going again. I seriously can't believe this is actually happening, Murray.
Race order. The race leader, Damon Hill. Second, Johnny Herbert. In third, Eddie Irvine. It looks to me, yes! Fourth, Jean Alesi. In fifth position, Olivier Panis. In sixth, Jean-Christophe Bouillon. That's down a position. Not a good stop there. Spectacular overtaking there.
Well, that is the first time ever we have seen, I think, one of the longest ever pit stops over a painstakingly 4 minutes. And I know it's only just what is happening right now here on track, but there is no words for that at all. And we...
Race order. In first, Damon Hill. Second, Johnny Herbert. In third position, Eddie Irvine. He's losing ground. Fourth, Jean Alesi. In fifth, Olivier Panis. In sixth place, Jean-Christophe Bouillon.
And we certainly was not expecting that unexpected pit stop there from Mika Häkkinen. And the results are very different to how you saw earlier on when we were showing...
The beauty of this race is that it's totally unpredictable.
And you couldn't take those words right out of my mouth. Oh my goodness! And just out of nowhere, I think that was Michael Schumacher, I think, who just regained...
Mark Blundell. 12th, Mika Häkkinen. 13th, Rubens Barrichello.
I went to say rejoin there, sorry, Murray.
Pace there.
Not everyone, sorry about that, interrupting you again, Murray. This race is literally, as you said, this has been the most unpredictable and unlikeliest of situations we have found ourselves in any Grand Prix race here in Formula One, and it can only happen on this series. And let's just hope
He's definitely gaining.
this unexpected situation won't happen again in a few weeks' time when we head to Estoril for the Portuguese Grand Prix. And round 13.
Race order. First, Damon Hill. In second position, Johnny Herbert. In third place, Eddie Irvine. Fourth, Jean Alesi. In fifth position, Olivier Panis. In sixth place, Jean-Christophe Bouillon. They're really right on the edge, pushing it to the limit all the time. He's definitely gaining. That's powerful acceleration there.
Will he ever give me a chance to say anything, Murray, here? And I'm not meaning that in a threatening way. I was just going to say, for the 13th round of the 1995 Reimagined
And the gap is closing.
FIA Formula One World Championship. Oh, and look at that! Häkkinen just had, I think that was,
11th, Mark Blundell. 12th, Mika Häkkinen. 13th, Pedro Lamy.
I think that was of, either Jean Alesi or, Gerhard Berger. It was one of the Ferraris. But despite this, we hope that you're enjoying this complete, utter randomness It was only going to be a matter of time that something as outrageous as this would happen.
That's moved him up a place.
Oh, and look at this!
In first, Damon Hill. In second place, Johnny Herbert. He really loves these kind of conditions. In third position, Eddie Irvine. Fourth, Jean Alesi. In fifth, Olivier Panis. In sixth place, Jean-Christophe Pouliot.
And unexpectedly, I think, well then again, I think he was trying to lap Hakkinen there at Gerhard Berger, I think.
The gap is increasing. Ninth, David Coulthard. 10th, Mika Hakkinen. 11th, Gerhard Berger.
Well, I honestly had no idea that this was going to even happen. This has just been the most unusual Grand Prix race
Right on the edge, pushing it to the limit all the time.
that I've ever seen in the whole of my life as we go into the last 8 laps.
Race order. The race leader, Damon Hill. In second, Johnny Herbert. Third, Eddie Irvine. In fourth place, Jean Alesi. In fifth, Olivier Panis. In sixth position, Jean-Christophe Pouliot. He's closing the gap.
Well, even though Hakkinen is out of the points,
Hard on the accelerator. Ninth, David Coulthard. 10th, Mika Hakkinen. 11th, Gerhard Berger.
this has been quite an unexpected performance from Mick Hakkinen.
The gap is closing.
We were expecting him to finish further up from starting initially in 8th place.
They're really right on the edge, pushing it to the limit all the time.
And even though Damon Hill is leading, this is only provisional at the moment because there could be
He's a bit off the pace there.
a change to the results after what happened to Johnny Herbert from when we were following him.
In first, Damon Hill. Second, Johnny Herbert. In third position, Eddie Irvine. In fourth place, Jean Alesi. Fifth, Olivier Panis. In sixth position, Jean-Christophe Pouliot. And the gap is closing. That's taken him up a position.
From earlier on during the race. He moves up to 9th as one of the drivers. I think that was maybe Coulthard has just pitted for one last time as we reach
And he's gained a lot of time there.
the last 5 laps of this year's and this afternoon's 1995 Pioneer 66.
Taki Inoue. 9th, Mika Häkkinen. This will really help the team in this year's Constructors' Championship. 10th, David Coulthard.
Italian Grand Prix
And the gap is closing.
here at Monza. I know that all of you listeners, or even of course once again viewers out there, this is completely out of our of course our control, this situation, but we can't obviously cut the race short. We have to complete the race distance, but it's going to take a long time to have an official result and determine who actually has won this afternoon's Grand Prix.
He's closing the gap. Race order. In first, Damon Hill. In second place, Johnny Herbert. In third position, Eddie Irvine. Fourth, Jean Alesi. In fifth, Olivier Panis. In sixth place, Jean-Christophe Bouillon. He's closing the gap.
We now ride on board with Häkkinen. Even though he's not been in the points,
Of acceleration there. He's definitely gaining.
we can do
Really help the team in this year's Constructors' Championship.
clarify that the fastest lap previously set by
Inoue. 9th, Mika Häkkinen. 10th, David Coulthard.
of Johnny Herbert. It being previously a
He's closing the gap.
1 minute 36.346 hundredths of a second. That was completely smashed by Häkkinen there as he still holds the new lap, fastest lap of 1 minute 35.499 hundredths of a second.
And the gap is closing. Race order. In first, Damon Hill. In second position, Johnny Herbert. In third, Eddie Irvine. Fourth, Jean Alesi. In fifth position, Olivier Panis. In sixth place, Jean-Christophe Bouillon. He's closing the gap. This young man really is a superlative driver. He's definitely gaining. 8th, Taki Inoue. There was definitely contact between the two cars. 9th, Mika Häkkinen. 10th, Pedro Lamy.
Well, that was a disgusting bit of aggressive driving there. I think that was initially from Michael Schumacher. But remember, he was actually further up initially when we were following Johnny Herbert, so this could be very different when we get to the final race results in just a few laps' time. Once again, it's completely been one of the most...
First, Damon Hill. In second position, Johnny Herbert. In third place, Eddie Irvine. Fourth, Jean Alesi. In fifth position, Olivier Panis. In sixth place, Jean-Christophe Pouliot.
To say again, Murray, sorry to interrupt, it's definitely been the most peculiar Formula One Grand Prix race we have ever seen.
He's definitely gaining.
And even though it's totally been something we seriously and rarely even do see, but we'll certainly not forget this race for a long, 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 long time.
And he's gained a lot of time there.
And maybe even longer than that.
He forces his way through.
Hill is about to start the final lap of this afternoon's 1995 Pioneer 66 Italian Grand Prix here from Monza. I know the enthusiasm in my voice, Murray, has definitely gone, but that's just because of how...
This will really help the team in this year's Constructors' Championship. Race order. First, Damon Hill. In second place, Johnny Herbert. In third position, Eddie Irvine. Fourth, Jean Alesi. In fifth position, Jean-Christophe Pouliot. In sixth place, Olivier Panis.
This has been, as I said, I am totally and utterly baffled by this outcome in this particular race. And we are going to hear from the FIA stewards.
Damon Hill. Frank Williams is going to be very happy with this win.
But we'll hear from the FIA, and also we will find out. It's going to take a few hours to decide who the official winner is, even though Damon Hill's just won there for Williams. But here on Grand Prix Formula One, we are going to try and sort this unexpected situation we found ourselves all in here
Johnny Herbert.
very shortly. And we'll find out who's actually won this afternoon's 1995 Italian Grand Prix.
8. Mika Häkkinen.
He certainly improved during the race, but unfortunately didn't make the points. It's a win for David Coulthard. Frank Williams is going to be very happy with this win. A superb result for Eddie Jordan and the team. What an incredible result for Formula One. What a fascinating season this is turning out to be.
Well, a real shame there for Mika Häkkinen there, Murray. But as you just said, and once again everybody here on Grand Prix Formula One, I know that this is the most unexpected and unthinkable situation that we've ever had with outcome of race results here on the series thus far. But after many hours of deciding, after the unexpected, as we did see there, of course, the running out of fuel from Johnny Herbert, who was leading the race, and he was about to come in on lap 28 of the Italian Grand Prix during the race, as we said from just a few hours ago. And unfortunately, he did run out of fuel. He was going to come in, of course, on that particular lap while he was ahead of Damon Hill when he took his pit stop. But unbelievably, due to, of course, a situation as when you run out of fuel on the game, of course, the race just carries on, but you just end up getting generated a random, of course, race classification after that. And we can confirm that unexpectedly, and by some unexpected, of course, well, I wouldn't have said that by some miracle, I think it has to be said, David Coulthard for Williams-Renault in his Rotherham's sponsored, of course, Williams-Renault has won another race of the 1995 FIA Formula 1 World Championship, the Reimagined season. And, well, what another unbelievable, incredible result. We also forgot to mention also that back when he won his first race of the season back at the Brazilian Grand Prix, he's now unbelievably from, we forgot to even mention this and we only just knew about it as of recently, he has become the first Scottish driver since Jackie Stewart back in 1973 to win a British Grand Prix. Not just British Grand Prix, but of course a Grand Prix race in the world of Formula 1. I mean, my head is just literally completely in a place where it's never ever been before, and it's going to take some time for me to get out of this. I mean, it's been one of the most peculiarest races that we've ever had in this series so far, and, well, I can only thoroughly apologise that this is, of course, the worst case scenario we could have been in for any of the races here on Grand Prix Formula 1. But do stay with us very shortly, everybody. We will have of course, an official classified also as well, classified and clarified podium ceremony with who will, of course, take second and third place on the podium. And but once again, unexpectedly, after of course missing out on the points last time out at the Belgian Grand Prix, once again to clarify, officially as of after 53 laps, David Coulthard in his Benetton, of course Williams-Renault even, has won once again the 1995 Pioneer 66 Italian Grand Prix here from the Autodromo Nazionale di Monza here in Italy. Well, everybody, as you did just see, unbelievably, we find ourselves in quite an unusual and quite very peculiar situation than what we had previously had. We certainly weren't expecting to be in this particular situation after another particular race of this series. But there, as you did see, of course, just from yesterday afternoon was the unbelievably full race highlights in 2 different ways for the first time ever here on Grand Prix Formula 1 of, once again, round 12 of the 1995 Reimagined FIA Formula 1 World Championship, with the 1995 Pioneer 66 Italian Grand Prix from the Autodromo Nazionale Monza in Italy. Now, of course, as you did see before the race actually started, or in between during when we showed you the highlights, you may have noticed that unexpectedly on, I think it was the 28th lap of the 53 lap race distance, Johnny Herbert in his Benetton Renault, he just managed to take the lead from Damon Hill in his Williams Renault before he was going to come in for a pit stop. But we didn't honestly think, and he didn't even also realise that he unexpectedly ran out of fuel, because he was his fuel tank was only about half of a litre, or a few litres that were in his, of course, his fuel tank and on his gauge graphic, and we had no idea that even though he was leading the race, for him to shortly run out of fuel and retire from the race was a shock to us all, and I was absolutely speechless when that happened, alongside with, of course, Murray Walker. And but in the situation that you did actually see, since of course we couldn't leave, if you did not know, that in the feature or part of the game, whenever you're of course, when you're racing as a particular driver on the game, if you were to, of course, have terminal damage in any way on the car, or once again run out of fuel, that means that you would be classified as did not finishing at the end of the race. And since this happened, we had to resort to showing you for the remainder of the race, as we saw, of Mika Hakkinen in his McLaren Mercedes. And even though that the results were very different when we started up the second half of the highlights of the particular race, that meant also, because since he was controlled by a computer, of course AI, Johnny Herbert, while he already was classified to retire from the race, that meant that we have found ourselves in quite an unfortunate predicament regarding the final race results. But we do know that if that were to have happened in any of these races, and it's quite unbelievably crazy to think that we've gone so far in the season without something like this even happening. And with that being said, we had reached the decision after, when we showed the highlights of which of the results out of the two part races separately would have been closest to the other. But we then thought it would be the right thing to do that, despite Johnny Herbert, of course, retiring from the race, we would stick with the results and, of course, the provisional results from the first bit of the first half of the race that we showed you earlier on in the program. So we can clarify this, that even though that Johnny Herbert, in real life, unbelievably, he did actually win this race, and it was his only race victory. No, sorry, actually, my apologies. It was actually his second race victory of this particular season, and we do know that, unbelievably, as we can also clarify this on our racers winners of the 1995 Reimagined season so far. We do know that he has won 2 races, as we mentioned earlier on in commentary, in Argentina, and also his home race at Silverstone in Great Britain. But since, as I said before, he was classified being retired from the race, and he doesn't, of course, get any points since he ran out of fuel in his car. That means that we can also confirm that, as well as previously also having the fastest lap before we went to follow Mika Hakkinen in his Mercedes, of course, powered McLaren for the remainder of the race. He actually unbelievably broke the lap record that was previously set by Johnny Herbert. His lap time was 1 minute 35 seconds, 0.648 hundredths of a second. But amazingly, Mika Hakkinen managed to set a faster time, and we've actually made it as a note so that we don't forget, of 1 minute 35.499 hundredths of a second. So 200 or 2,000ths of a second in it between the two times, and that is an incredible achievement there for the Flying Finn driver himself there, and we honestly thought as well he could have had a chance to be on the podium in real life. He did actually get second place, and unbelievably, even though that we'll get to the race classification, which I've got here on my phone very, very shortly, but in the real life race, the German driver of Heinz-Out Frentzen in his Red Bull sponsored Sauber Ford took his first podium finish, and not just for the team of Sauber, but for also in his Formula One career. So I mean, we did see that happen, but with his Austrian teammate of Karl Wendlinger, and at the Spanish Grand Prix, which I certainly was not expecting that to happen, but if you thought that was crazy with the real life results, we've also had another shock result here, as we can get straight to, of course, the full classified and of course clarified race classification of after 53 laps, sorry, of this. I'll make that of course not this afternoon's, but yesterday afternoon's Italian Grand Prix. David Coulthard in his Williams Renault wins the race, and he takes his fourth victory of the championship, and completing the race by 1 hour 23 minutes and 6 seconds, 0.503 hundredths of a second. And also his fellow British teammate, that being Damon Hill, has made it the first 1-2 for the Williams Renault team by finishing in second place, and he was behind by 15 seconds, 0.34 5 hundredths of a second. But an incredible result, and we certainly was not expecting this. We did actually mention that he missed out on the podium chance at the German Grand Prix, but Northern Irishman Eddie Irvine in his total, of course, sponsored and Peugeot-powered Jordan Grand Prix car, he takes his first podium finish in his Formula One career, and once again the second podium finish for the Jordan Grand Prix team in this Reimagined Championship, which is an unbelievably huge result there for the Jordan team, and Eddie Jordan will be overjoyed with this result, of course, once again, for one of his own cars to be on the podium again for a second time in this year's Reimagined Championship season. And he finished behind by 50 seconds, 0.983 hundredths of a second. Fourth, and even though that the Ferrari team sadly couldn't get on the podium this afternoon, or from yesterday afternoon for that matter, but the Frenchman John Alesi in his Ferrari finished behind by 1 lap, as well as Germany's Michael Schumacher taking 5th in his Benetton. And also the Austrian Gerhard Berger, who held on to the final point in his Ferrari. So amazingly, the Ferrari team managed to get 4 points in total, having both cars in the points, as well as the Ferrari team drivers that began being Coulthard and Hill. And it's such a shame that Johnny Herbert, because of excuse me, of course, was my voice croaked there. And it's such a shame that because of him running out of fuel, he once again had to retire from the race, unfortunately. But Schumacher still had a decent performance, getting into the top 6. And just missing out on the points is the fellow Frenchman in his Ligier Mugen Honda, that being Olivier Panis in 7th. Rubens Barrichello gets into the top 10. The Brazilian teammate Eddie Irvine in also his Jordan Peugeot in 8th place. Marc Blundell took an impressive 9th place there, also for the McLaren team. Even though that, as we did show you earlier on, Mika Hakkinen also did initially finish in the top 10, but it does show him from the first time that we did this race, he unfortunately finished out of the top 10. But to round off the top 10, the German, that being once again, as we mentioned, of Heinz Alfredsen in his Sauber Ford, rounds off the top 10, and he also was behind by also 1 lap. And once again, to clarify, after Johnny Herbert's retirement, he, of course, his fastest lap was broken by just 0.02 of a second by the Finnish driver Mika Hakkinen in his McLaren Mercedes with a time of 1 minute 35.499 hundredths of a second. So, with that being said, and of course that now cleared up, and let me tell you, of course, even though it has took us a whole day to try and process this situation and this situation regarding this particular race and edition here on the Grand Prix Formula 1, it has been, I think, one of the most unlikeliest of situations to have ever, of course, take place. But with that being said, of course, it's still we had an interesting race, even though it might have been quite confusing for all of you viewers and also watching. I mean, I was just as baffled when I found out that Herbert, of course, retired and initially when he ran out of fuel, because with this game, as I had not mentioned already, you could not see the official fuel gauge of level of fuel that was in Herbert's car. And you only find out when a low fuel, of course, warning comes up on the screen, as you did see earlier on, and you only have like almost like about a few seconds to a minute to try and get back to the pit lane to stop up on fuel, but you only find that out until when it's like literally beyond empty. So and that has actually happened before when we've had even way before we started this series, when we've had test races. This was the same thing. That's the same situation that happened. We found out that it took 28 laps for the fuel to run out on one of these cars if it had been filled up to half a tank of fuel of 50%. So that's quite interesting to know that we won't hopefully see that happen when we get to the next race of this particular season in a few weeks' time. But with that being said, let's get straight on to, of course, updating the official, and after 12 rounds of the 1995 Reimagined FIA Formula 1 World Championship, let's start off with the Drivers' and Constructors' Championship point table so far. And once again, with another all-important race victory for the Scotsman of David Coulthard, he now regains the lead in the Drivers' Championship by 51 points, and he is just 9 points ahead of Germany's Michael Schumacher in his Benetton. And even though that, of course, initially that we certainly wasn't expecting him to finish on the podium, of course, again, consecutively in second place for a second time in 2 races, that being, of course, David Coulthard's English teammate of Damon Hill, staying in 3rd place with 38 points. But that does mean, unbelievably, he is actually now, of course, overtaken from 4th to 3rd, because Mark Blundell, after finishing out of the points, he is just 4 points behind him with 34 points. And since, of course, the retirement there for Johnny Herbert running out of fuel, he still remains in 5th place at the moment with 27 points. And with only the points finish there of only getting that was 4th place and 3 points there. He has managed to move up, and he's done pretty well to actually unbelievably equal, of course, on both with 24 points to Brazilians Rubens Barrichello, as they are both in 6th place at the moment, as I said, to clarify, with 24 points. Gerhard Berger stays in 8th place with 13 points, as well as in 9th place Jean-Christophe Bourgnon with 11 points. And still at the moment, Olivier Parny, since he missed out on the points, of course, course, positioned, he still remains in 10th place with only 9 points. But just out of the top 10, because of that impressive third place podium finish, the first one there for Northern Irishman Eddie Irvine. He moves up to 11th with 5 points, and now also level with Carl Wendiger in his Sauber Ford. And we can also clarify that he is, of course, making huge progress in his, of course, his head injury assessment, and he hopefully in the next few races, as we've only got 5 races to go in this Reimagined 1995 Formula 1 World Championship season, we'll be seeing him take back in, of course, the driver's seat. I think initially of Jean-Christophe Bouillon, I think, to my knowledge, when that happens. But we'll find that out hopefully within the next few weeks, and once again the next few rounds of this year's championship. But with that covering the drivers, as we have a look at the Constructors' Championship next, and all that important 1-2 finish for Williams, that has now unbelievably had a huge difference on their place in the drivers, or the Constructors' Championship, as they are now leading by 83 points, and there is a 14-point difference between them and Benetton, who, of course, once again dropped down now to second. As previously, before this race, both the constructors were both had 67 points, but like I said before, we do know that they have unfortunately, because of Herbert's retirement, they've missed out on some vital points in the championship. And before the last race, we also we'd like to clarify what I mentioned, the number 23, where McLaren Mercedes are, and that was the points difference before it changed not too long ago in the last race. And we can now clarify that McLaren Mercedes have still are, of course, trying to catch up with Benetton Renault, but they currently have 44 points, as once again both drivers failed to get into the points on this particular race. But as you have not noticed as well, Ferrari are still in 4th place, and they are only just I think just around about 8 points in it between once again McLaren, but they stay once again there where they are in 4th place with 37. And 7 points behind, with a huge boost there for that third podium finish. Of course, position result there for Eddie Irvine for the Jordan, of course, total sponsored Jordan Grand Prix Peugeot team. Of course, now moving up to 30 points as they hit the 30-point barrier, and they are 7 points behind Ferrari, but they stay once again in 5th place. And Sauber Ford are still in 6th place with 17 points, and still in 7th, 8th and 9th are Ligier Mugen Honda, still with 9 points, Tyrrell Yamaha with 5 points, and Footwork Kart with still only 3 points at the moment, after 12 rounds of the 1995 Reimagined FIA Formula 1 World Championship season so far. Well, there you go, everybody. Despite this unexpected and quite unfortunate thing to have happened on this series, we would just like to, of course, thoroughly apologise for the particular outcome of this race. And this was, as we mentioned earlier on in the programme, this could have been this is literally the worst case scenario we could have been in, and we certainly weren't expecting it as a premonition. To, of course, seeing that the driver that we were initially going to follow, that being Johnny Herbert, but it's unfortunate that we sadly couldn't replicate his incredible victory that happened in real life. But still a great performance once again from the Rotherham sponsored Williams Renault team. And with that being said, of course, and I think that I definitely will need a well-deserved, of course, time away from this series, because it's literally it literally has made me go almost completely insane how to adapt to this particular situation after this particular race result. And with that being said, of course, you only have to wait for the next 2 weeks or so, as next time here on Grand Prix Formula 1, we'll be heading once again, as we stay in Europe, but we'll be heading to the long and quite technical and demanding Estoril circuit in Portugal for, once again, round 13 of the 1995 FIA Formula 1 World Championship, with the 1995 Grande Primo de Portugal, and once more specifically translated in English, the Portuguese Grand Prix from the Circuito do Estoril. And we do know in previous years it is a very demanding course, and unbelievably it happens to be a favourite testing ground with most of the teams on the grid. And so we do know that most of the drivers of this particular Formula 1 season know, of course, the overall length of the circuit and all of the corners in between it very well. We do know that more specifically that the length of the course being 4.360 kilometers, which is 2.725 miles, and it's got a lap race distance of 71 laps, so it's going to be a lot more longer than, of course, the race that we had today. And it's got a few fast straights, but loads of very unique corners, especially with the final Parabolica corner, named in honour of the late Ayrton Senna, also too as well. And not to forget also the uphill chicane at that being the Gancho corner at of course the ninth turn on the circuit. So but we do know that it is going to be very exciting to see that race in the next few weeks or so. And next time out, also unbelievably, since he has won once again another race of this year's Reimagined 95 season here on Grand Prix Formula 1, we will be following Scotsman David Coulthard, because unbelievably in real life he actually would have won this particular race, and unbelievably he would have actually won his very first race in his Formula 1 career, when actually we mentioned earlier on that we certainly weren't expecting him to win the other races, such as the likes of at Interlagos in Brazil, and also Monaco, of course, and Monte Carlo, and not to forget also that very impressive performance also at the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve in Montreal in Canada for the Canadian Grand Prix also as well. But with also that being said, with also that to look forward to, there is also other sport coming up here on Jackpot Button Lewis Productions from later on this week. And if you thought this was quite crazy and quite outrageous to watch, we have still got some more exciting sport to, of course, bring you here on Jackpot Button Lewis Productions, as we will start off, as we will be having the, of course, this weekend's edition of Match of the Day, and of course we will be having the opening match of that being the fourth match day of the Premier League, current Premier League season, with the likes of Arsenal taking on Nottingham Forest, and also Bournemouth AFC against Brighton and Hove Albion, and as well as Newcastle United against Wolverhampton Wanderers, and Everton against Aston Villa. Crystal Palace play against Sunderland, along with Fulham against Leeds United, and West Ham take on Tottenham in another, of course, exciting London derby, as well as Brentford taking on Chelsea, as well as also Burnley taking on Liverpool, and also the big, of course, United and City derby match of both Manchester City and Man United when they play at the Etihad Stadium on Sunday the 14th of September. And as well as that, also on the very same day, we have also got Women's Rugby Union to look forward to, as of course this year with the Women's Rugby World Cup happening in England, the England, of course, make that the Red Roses, after a dominant performance, after beating Australia and also Samoa, and also a few of the other teams in their group. We'll make that also as well. We do know that also beating the United States also in Pool A. It's going to be a battle of course, the borders between the England women's rugby team against their, of course, their, wouldn't say arch rivals, but to nickname like if it were to be the football team, the old enemy of Scotland, and they will be playing later on, of course, from this weekend on Sunday, the 14th of September, and will be live from the Ashton Gate Stadium in Bristol for, of course, that match. And we are certainly looking forward to seeing that, especially from 4 years ago, that the England Women's Rugby Union team, they managed to get all the way to the final when they played in New Zealand, and they actually faced New Zealand in the final, but they lost out by just a small but of course points margin in the last few minutes of the final game. And but it was so close to see that the women's team are just as good as the men's team are as well, and that is certainly it would be nice, of course, especially since it's a home tournament, and following the impressive of course result for the Lionesses of the England women's football team, of course becoming double back-to-back European champions for another year. It would be nice to follow suit that with another home tournament in the world of course women's sport. It would be another huge, of course, impact, and I think it will make a huge impact on the world of women's sport, and more specifically in the world of rugby union, when, of course, if that were to happen, if they manage to get there, hopefully towards from next month in October. Well, with that being said, and of course all that to look forward to, that is of course unfortunately it for another edition of Grand Prix Formula 1 here on Jackpot Button Lewis 2 and also Jackpot Button Lewis Sport Productions. In the most unexpected situations that we've had so far in any of the races here on this series of Grand Prix Formula 1, another impressive and unexpected fourth race victory in the season so far for Scotsman David Coulthard, and he once again regains the lead in the Drivers' Championship. Another, of course, great performance, and the first 1-2 finish for the Williams-Renault team, and they're hoping to have a repeat of that, hopefully, in a few weeks' time. But once again, it's unfortunate that the Ferrari team, even though on their home race they could have wished for a better result, but I mean, it's still with the most shocking result of them all. It had to be a huge congratulations also once again to the Total Jordan Grand Prix team with Peugeot engines there, and Eddie Jordan, who, as we already know, as of outside of this series and of the Jackpot Button Lewis Sports universe, he sadly passed away earlier on, but he would have still been alive around this time. But we did know that his team in this particular year, they did struggle with reliability right at the beginning, but as the series progressed, they started getting consistent points finishes as well, not to mention an impressive 2-3 finish also at the Canadian Grand Prix, at that being the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve in Montreal. But who knows? I mean, of course, this is the most unexpected and unpredictable race that we've had so far in the series, and I think it's just going to get even more crazier and even more stranger as we move to the next race once again, which, as I said before, will be next live, well, not live, but of course will we be bringing you extended live of course race highlights from filmed from a few hours beforehand, before we bring you full extended race highlights of the Portuguese Grand Prix from the Circuit do Estoril in, of course, Portugal, for once again round 13 of the 1995 Reimagined FIA Formula 1 World Championship season. So with that being said, I'm going to go off and have a well-deserved rest after this quite anarchic edition of this series, and we'll see you hopefully in a few weeks' time as we continue the 1995 Reimagined FIA Formula 1 World Championship season with round 13 of the Portuguese Grand Prix from Estoril. Thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you in a few weeks' time. Bye-bye! Are we done? Oh, my word. Can you honestly believe that actually had to go and happen on today's edition of this show? Or this series? That is unbelievable. I never would have thought that would ever happen. But thanks to this game with that random result there, I mean, it still blows my mind. It is just so baffling, some of these results that we get here on this series. But it was nice to, of course, as I was wearing a McLaren shirt earlier on, we actually got to see Mika Hakkinen as well, finishing off the race from yesterday afternoon and after when Johnny retired. So, but well, let's see. Hopefully he can only have a more better race, and hopefully we'll try and avoid this particular situation for the next race. God forbid. We certainly don't want to be in this situation again. Not at all. Not at all. Well, anyway, well done, everybody. Well, we'll certainly not forget this one in a very, very long time. But that concludes the 12th edition of Grand Prix Formula 1 with extended live, of course I keep saying there, live race highlights. Of course it wasn't even live, it's actually just race highlights, honestly. I'm still even reeling from that result yesterday. It's just, I need to just give my head a little bit of a rest now. I have never been just so overwhelmed by this unexpected result. But anyway, like I said, that concludes the 12th edition of Grand Prix Formula 1. And this time, once again, with extended full race highlights of the 1995 Italian Grand Prix from Monza. And cut. If you enjoyed this race here on Jackpot Button Lewis Productions, let me know on what you thought of the race by giving a like on this video and subscribing so you never miss out on future races with more exciting classic retro Grand Prix racing action. And also, once again, let us know on your thoughts on the video by commenting down below in the, of course, comment box. And we look forward to seeing you for some more exciting, more future Grand Prix racing action, all here on Jackpot Button Lewis Productions, here on YouTube.